like to say hello, to welcome. Welcome to another decided edition of the program of Ashford Garley Live. As a matter of fact, this is our last production for the year 2020. In just a few hours, we will be saying Happy New Year to all of you. Already in other parts of the countries, you know, they are celebrating New Year as we speak now. So, folks, what is your resolution for 2021? You know, 2020 had a bittersweet, but as we prepare to go to 2021, what is your resolution? With that said, folks, please allow me to borrow the wordings of the wise man. But before we do that, we have an honoree tonight, Mrs. Kimberly Kamara. She celebrates her birthday today. And that's why she's on the billboard. You know, when you get on the billboard, you you have to be very powerful to make it to the billboard. So in this case, Mrs. Kimberly Kamara is our honoree tonight. And this one comes from her lovely husband, Mr. George Kesely Kamara. You know, Mrs. Kamara is the CEO of Never Ending Emotions LLC, named for short. And Mrs. Kamara is also the author of one of Amazon's top sellers, Where's My Daddy? So as she celebrates her birthday tonight, we'd like to say congratulations to her. With that said, tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. And when God bless you, don't say that medicine. When you see the crawfish come from underneath the water, don't say the crocodile is sweating. Don't say that loud, because a bald-headed man does not walk on the moonlight. And please, trust no shadow. Trust no shadow in the dark. With that said, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, ASHFORD, the giant Garley, the now you know man. Let me take time out to introduce to you the co-host, after which we're going to bring up close to the microphone and camera our special guest. Shelton.
You just talked about it. Last day of the year, man.
I'm telling you.
It feels good. It feels amazingly good going through 2020 with all the pandemic, the thousands and millions of people who've died, people who contracted this virus, changed their lives, changed their families, you know, a lot of emotions, a lot of depression and grief and all those things. But God is good that we're here tonight and we're celebrating with a great topic for the night to close the year. So I'm elated to be here. I know the discussion is going to be very, very sound, and we're going to have a great time to usher in the new year. And I'm looking for greater things, greater possibilities on the horizon for Bridge Radio Africa in 2021. This will be our first phase of our agenda, our 3-phase plan for this entity. And I know 2021 is going to be amazing for us. Let's keep fingers crossed and be hopeful and keep God first in everything we do, Ashford.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelton. And well said. And now to take up time, we want to just go straight into this by introducing to you our special guest. She's a visionary, and she's also the founder of Liberian Professionals for Development, anywhere from advocacy to research to engagement. And she has traveled extensively, not only in Europe, but in most of Africa and other parts of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me at this time as we introduce to you Mrs. SARA BEYSLOW Yante. Hello, Mr. Yante. Are you there? We see her name, but we don't see.
Yeah. She looked frozen in the back. I'm not sure.
The photograph. Okay. As we We welcome the.
Yeah, because she's not responding.
Now, as we work on the image to bring up and close Mrs. Yante Shetton, there's this dude called Adgran, and he made a song entitled "For the Good Times."
Oh
Why,
yeah,
why don't you
that's a classic.
talk about this song and the artist himself before we play the song? Adgran.
Man, listen, Al Green is just a wonderful, kind guy. He's one of those guys you hear his voice, if you know music, you know it's him. He's so distinct, particular, great artist. He was just a cool soul guy, and grown folks, not kids now. He's a grown folks kind of artist, and his songs just extraordinarily phenomenal, and he's that good. And that song for the good times is one of those classic that never grows old.
Okay. Speaking of the classic that never grows old, why don't we take a listen to Adgran for the good time?
And I just want to dedicate this one out to all of our viewers, listeners, fans, and followers. Man, listen, 2020 is here, about to be over within the next 4 hours? 9, 10, that's 10, 11, 12, 3 hours. So this is for all of you. Thanks for sticking with us, and let's go into 2021.
And Mrs. Kimberly Kamara, this is your night.
Don't look so sad. I know it's over. But life goes on, and this world keeps on turning.
Okay, Adgran, and I think we have Mrs. Yante this time. Mrs. Yante, hello, and hold on one minute, Mrs. Yante. Let me drop this volume. Let me drop this volume real quick, and then we will come right back to you. Just stay put, and let's see what happens here with the music, and then we'll go right back to Mrs. Yante. Okay, Mrs. Yante, again, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, Ashford, and thanks for having me.
Well, tomorrow is New Year's Day. First off, what is on your mind? I know you just got back in country, and just give us a minute or two to share your thoughts with us as we approach the new year. And we'll also have the opportunity for those of the folks who didn't see you the last time you appeared, who is Mrs. SARA BEYSLOW Yante.
Well, so firstly, let me say Happy New Year to all of those who have already marked the new year where they are. I know for the people who matter so much to me, the people of Liberia, they are jubilating, and I'm receiving felicitations, and I'm just happy that people find something to celebrate at this time in Liberia, noting how grim things have been, how grim things are for many families at this time, that we can still celebrate the breath of life. And for all those who have marked the new year in different places, Happy New Year to you. And for us who are waiting to mark the new year, I pray that all may be over in Jesus' name.
Okay, you are the visionary, the founder of the Liberian Professionals for Development. Bring us up to speed. How is the organization doing so far? And what are some of the projects that you have worked on?
Well, since the launching of the Liberian Professionals for Development, the team on the ground, the senior management team has been formulated and is embarking on its 2021 work plan. Two of the things we plan to do early in the year are a partnership with the University of Liberia to look at a database of diaspora professionals with expertise that can be brought to bear. The other major thing we're planning for 2021 first quarter is an education fair. And that education fair is really about educating Liberians who are in the last year of high school or in the first or second year of university about different disciplines especially disciplines they may not be aware of, and sort of broadening their scope. And I think we look at 11th grade and 10th grade as well. So broadening their scope of understanding about different professions that are out there, and what their skill sets, or the areas of interest are that are related to those different professions, and looking at how we can sort of have more women, for example, in the sciences, and have more Liberians in general, men and women, have more Liberians in general, looking at different areas other than business or sociology, which are the two areas that are the majors for the average Liberian going to university.
Well, before that, bring in Shelton. Speaking of women and girls, one of the things that still that still bothers our young girls, our toddlers, is rape and sexual and gender-based violence. What is your organization doing in that regard?
Well, ASHFORD, the Liberia Professionals for Development, is not involved in sexual and gender-based violence. I work towards addressing and alleviating sexual and gender-based violence through a different mechanism. Okay. And that is through a community-based approach, a social movement for change. And we have now constructed and equipped the second learning hut for adolescent girls. And that learning hut is intended to ensure that at least 30 girls have a safe space, a space where they can be taught by a female teacher, they can be counseled by a female social worker, and they can be helped with their homework. A safe space where, if they would, even without the teacher, if they wanted to read and so forth, they would be able to go there and read and discuss with other young women like themselves. The issue of rape is one we speak about in relation to, the perpetrators only. We most often talk about, the rape law and ensuring implementation of the law, which is very important and will serve as a deterrent for further crimes against women and girls and even boys. Let's not pretend like rape is only against the females. It's against the males as well. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that, besides the issue of ensuring justice for the victims, we need to be working on preventing it. And we need to be working on ensuring that parents and communities come together to put in place mechanisms and programs and plans to protect the children. And so what I'm trying to do is just contribute in my own way at the community level by having these learning huts for adolescent girls and making sure there's a safe space for girls. But it's nothing compared to what's required holistically at the national level across the country in all communities. And I think that's the discourse that needs to continue.
Shelton?
Sarah, listen, quite recently the statistics coming out of Liberia regarding rape and sexual-based violence has become alarming. And you and I know that every day you look on social media, there's something relatable to rape. One of those cases came out of the interior part of the country, and it was so graphic, and it hurt me because that was a baby that this guy mutilated. He didn't even just go beyond, but he mutilated her using razor blades and stuff like that. And when you think about the gravity of some of these rape cases and the perpetrator, the age disparity and all of that, it brings to mind whether these people are sane to do stuff like this. Your organization's social movement for change now dealing with 30 girls, put them in a safe space. Are these girls victims, or you're trying to prevent girls who have not been victimized? Can you tell us what kind of population are they victims or have not been victimized as of yet?
So thank you. So in relation, first of all, to the point you raised about the mutilation of the baby, because it's a baby, the mutilation of the baby and the abuse against these babies in different parts of the country. There's one as recent as 2 weeks ago in Cape Mount, where the child was taken to the clinic in Sinje. And that's one we're trying to intervene in. But there are different cases all across the country, and some of them don't get reported and some don't get heard. So just imagine the reported cases between January and July in Liberia were about 1,000 at the time of that data. It wasn't complete. I can only imagine what it is for the whole year, 2020. When we look at it, at the beginning of 2021, when we're reviewing 2020, it's going to be alarming. It's already alarming. It's already too much.
2,700 going upward.
And this, I mean, one child is too much. One rape is too much. And we've become so desensitized to it now. We sort of just look at the numbers and say, oh yeah, the rape cases are high, and we're not even sensitive to the fact that these are thousands of lives that are being, truncated. These are thousands of lights that are being put out. These are thousands of hopes that are being totally just cut off. And we've become so desensitized to the point where we just sort of count the numbers now. And that's why for us, the idea is to prevent it from happening. So to your question, the issue is prevention. Not talking about it after the fact, but trying to prevent it from happening. Noting that there are other players, there are many others who are dealing with the effects of rape, right? There are many people who, many NGOs and community-based organizations and international partners who are working on addressing the immediate health and psychosocial needs of the victims. And we are also joining forth with that in that child protection system to say, let's prevent it from happening in the first place. You may have, now we have 2 learning huts. And so now we're targeting that there are 60 girls. We may have 1 or 2 of those girls who have been victimized. They have not spoken up, but they are participating in the learning hut, not as victims. They're participating there as a community that have come together to say they want to join hands with us to ensure that the girls are protected and given a safe space. So I can't say categorically that none of the 60 girls have been raped before, right? But all of them are getting psychosocial support with the understanding that some of them might have been, and some of them may be vulnerable. Some of them may be in households where the uncles or the brothers or the neighbor, are using them as prey. So because we don't know for sure, we're addressing all of the psychosocial needs from that perspective.
No, Yante, prevention is one thing. How do you how does the law enforcement try to stop these people from even committing the act? For example, something happens to a toddler, and you will see family members trying to intervene to keep it hush hush and say, you know what, let us just forget it. Let us talk it the family way. That alone would not stop this thing from happening. So how do we prevent those things from happening?
Look, the reality is that as a people, we have some peculiar traits. We have some peculiar behaviors. And one of the things is that in our quest to keep things secret and private and quiet and so forth, we tell ourselves that we're protecting the victim. We tell ourselves that we want the victim to no longer be victimized by people knowing. We don't realize that what we're doing actually is allowing that perpetrator to go and rape somebody else again, allowing that person to go and inflict that pain and that wickedness on other children. So we look at it from this communal approach of, let's just keep it inside, let's just quiet it down. But that's what happens. It has been happening for generations until this thing has become a norm. And we have to say no more. It's not a norm. It's not acceptable. And it's not a norm for the world. It should not be a norm for Liberia. And it should not be a norm in any of our communities. And this is where we must rise up together and raise our voices as mothers, as fathers, as people who love our children. We need to raise our voices because nobody else can speak for them. And sometimes in their own homes they're voiceless, and sometimes their parents are scared. Sometimes the families are confused, or they lack the knowledge and the skills. And we who know that this is wrong, and we who know that this is not being helped by them having this culture of silence, and that this culture of silence tends to actually, promote the continuation of this practice, we need to be raising our voices and educating these parents and ensuring that together we try to prevent and mitigate all of the threats around our children.
Now, something that has been around for decades. For example, I'm not educated, but my brother or my sister is educated. and she lives in Monrovia, and I live in Bipolo or Grand Jita. And I say, you know what? I want my daughter or my son to one day become somebody. I allow my son or daughter to go and live with his uncle or aunt. And the uncle now will feel that that child will be his sex slave when you have children of the same age. And in some instances, this child doesn't go to school. The child does all the work around the home, but when it gets dark, in the absence of his wife, he starts to sleep with the child. In some instances, babies will come and they would never say anything about these things. In this day and age, something has to be done.
I would say a lot has to be done. Not just something has to be, a lot has to be done. I think first and foremost is we need to have education facilities in the rural areas. If in the rural areas we had schools and we had teachers there to teach the children, and rural families had the means to send their children to school and give them an opportunity, their right, by the way, not a request for their want, it's their right. It's their basic human right to have education where they are. If we ensure that children in rural areas have education where they are, their parents won't be looking to send them to Monrovia to go to school or send them to a relative who they feel is better off. And I think we need to take the conversation back to human rights. When we talk about human rights, people only think about crimes against humanity or war crimes and things like that. Human rights is about the access to healthcare, access to nutrition, access to education, access to safe drinking water. These children don't even have water to drink. The water in the rural areas that they bathe with, it's the same water they wash dishes with. It's the same water that they wash clothes with. It's the same water they drink. So what are we talking about? At the end of the day, we'll continue to have this cycle of people wanting their children to go and live with other people in Monrovia or in better areas if the rights of every Liberian are not fulfilled where they are. And that's, I mean, that's the foundation. That's the starting point of this conversation that we're having. People won't be sending their children and risking their children's lives if they knew, first of all, if they knew some of these things that were happening in Monrovia, in some of these homes, but also if their rights were being fulfilled where they are. And I think we need to be addressing both, service delivery and fulfillment of rights, and at the same time educating parents about some of the risks of them sending their children to other places. Look at the issue of the orphanages. Look at the issue of adoption schemes and so forth. If parents knew all of the risks that their children face and all of the vulnerabilities of their children being placed in those situations, nobody gets up in the morning and has their children and wants them to die or wants them to be raped. Only wicked people will have that. The vast majority want good for their children, but oftentimes they don't know any better. And oftentimes they think it's the only opportunity they have. And we have to change that.
Yeah, so you talked about your organization, Social Movement for Change. If we look at the issue of rape and sexual-based violence, it's a global issue, but it's almost always prevalent in Africa and many of the African countries. And it's, again, we talked about the silence by the family, and it's usually perpetrated by insiders. And some of the insiders are close to the families, and the family want to keep it as, let's solve the issue. Since you launched this portion of your organization, have you been able to have any kind of interfacing with the Ministry of Gender, with some kind of proposal as to what type of, support you can give the gender ministry to begin to navigate the communities and, bring to light some of the things that would be helpful to provide the kind of knowledge for the community, for families, for the young women, except for the people the 30 young women you already have in school? Is there any, in that safe house, is there anything further you're doing, and have you engaged the Ministry of Gender?
Okay, so a couple of points of clarification. So one is that we have 2 learning huts now, so there's 60 girls, not 30.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, so at the community, so we're looking at the issue from 2 perspectives. One is at the policy level, which you're speaking to in terms of Ministry of Gender. The other is at the community level, where the impact is felt, where the action is, where things are happening. So at the community level, we're doing that social movement for change and talking to households about their rights, about the need to protect the children, making sure children go to school and all of that. At the policy level is where the professionals for development comes in, and looking at how we can holistically and constructively engage on making some recommendations at the policy level to the Ministry of Gender. That hasn't happened yet. That will happen through the Professionals for Development. But thank you for that question, because at the end of the day, some only look to one aspect. Some only look at the policy level, at the ministerial level, look at the guidelines and the laws and so forth. Some only look at the community and household level. We need to be looking at both. We need to be looking at all levels, really, and making sure that we address this issue at all levels through all sectors as well. Not only gender, we can be addressing this through health, through education, because we have it in schools. I'm talking about the issue of children needing to go to school, but sometimes in school, children are victims of rape. Sometimes because of sex for grades and children's refusal to participate, children are victimized in school where they're supposed to be safe. So it's through every sector and at every level that this issue needs to be addressed. It has permeated every aspect of our society in Liberia, and like you say, it's something that's a global problem. But the numbers coming out of Liberia, when you look at it proportionally, look at the incidence to population, it's extremely high. And I mean, I don't have an analysis of all the countries in Africa and in that proportionality, but I can tell you, for our population that's so small, about 5 million people, the incidence of rape, and these are only the reported cases. Imagine the ones we don't know about. We should all be alarmed as a Liberian, whether you're in Liberia or in the diaspora. We should all be alarmed, because this is the future of Liberia we're talking about. The future of Liberia is being raped every single day.
Speaking of the future of Liberia being raped, let us talk about violence, domestic violence, to be precise. Since the onset of the pandemic, especially, and this situation is not only unique to Liberia. We can relate to that as well in America, where you only have perhaps 3 to 4 hours for the husband and wife to be in the home at the same time. Now the pandemic comes, and just like that, nobody leaves the home, and most people don't like people being in the face. The children can't go to school, so the house down has become crowded, and there's a huge degree of violence that came out of this since the onset of this pandemic. How do we control this?
Well, this problem you're speaking to, the issue of the impact of COVID and the impact of the lockdowns around the world and so forth, it has affected all countries the same way. We have seen an increase in reports of violence against women, violence, spousal abuse, violence against children. We've had more instances of cases being reported to hotlines in developed countries. So it's not so much a problem in Liberia as it's a problem of the world. And you said that. And speaking specifically to Liberia, now bringing it home to Liberia, where all of our hearts are, you'll find that it's even more complicated and frustrating when the families don't have the means, when the families don't even have any other outlet. The children don't have any other outlet. They don't have television in the daytime. They don't have electronics that they can use for learning and have access to the Khan academies and other learning tools and other learning platforms that other children have around the world. When you talk about the fact that the child and the parent at home, and there's no money, there's no food to eat, definitely anger, definitely frustrations come in, and you find that you have more violence at home. And this is why during this Christmas season, I really worked hard to make sure to put smiles on so many children's faces. I was able to have over 1,000 children impacted, having Christmas parties for them in Bassel, Margibi, and Montserrado. 5 different Christmas parties for over 1,000 children with toys and food and so forth, to give them that outlet, give them that time to play. Some of these children had never even seen these kinds of toys before. And it tells you how so grim the situation is in our country. And when you add the situation of COVID to that, it further exacerbates the suffering and the pain and the difficulties that children face in Liberia. So for me, the issue here is, what are we doing to address, with or without COVID? So COVID aside, what are we doing to address the needs of a child to be a child? A child needs to be protected from rape and violence and so forth, but a child needs to play, a child needs to go to school, a child needs to have access to facilities to develop their motor skills, to develop their cognitive skills. It's a larger conversation beyond COVID. We could deal with COVID tomorrow. The situation of the Liberian child does not change until something changes drastically in the country, until schools are equipped and there's a drive to get every child in school, and we have meals in school, we have the tools for children to learn, we have teachers paid. We're talking about the future of Liberia being as grim as possible. This is no joke. For me, this is an emergency. The situation that children face in Liberia is an emergency.
Okay, Shelton, I know you were coming, but let us bring in Christopher. Christopher is media mogul in Liberia. And Chris, why don't you tell the world about yourself, and then you can weigh in, because I'm pretty sure you're not strange to what we're discussing. Chris?
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Christopher Hayes Onanunga, Chairman of the National Excellence Awards Committee of Liberia, Head of the National Center for Excellence and Creativity, also CEO of CityCom International, that's Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and the United States. Also the owner of Cool 91.9 and Cool TV. Indeed, I'm no stranger to the topic, but I will hope and pray that what I'm hearing that is extremely inviting and enticing, especially as it relates to the younger kids and teenagers in Liberia, from where Mrs. Yante is speaking from. It touches the very fabric of the nation, and it is that area to which every adult who has acquired education and some form of experience and wealth should be able to focus, because in the next 10 years, 20 years from now, these are the people who will either allow us to live our old age in peace and prosperity, or will send us back to the doldrum of a dark day. So that's the instruction so far.
Now, Chris, in Europe and other industrialized countries, they teach sex education, but back home, our parents become a little apprehensive. As a matter of fact, the boy would not go out except when it's 26th day or Christmas Day, and then they start to think, why are they preventing us from going out? And instead of teaching them on how to carry themselves, at the end of the day, a child that is 10, 11 end up getting pregnant, and the next thing you know, it's a little setback in terms of their education. You can bring that, then we'll go to shelter and come back to Mrs. Yante.
Well, I'll say this to you. In all fairness, the child that is 10 years old today knows exactly what we knew when we were 25 years old those days. So it means that with the globe becoming smaller through social media, and now that you can find every single thing you want to research or know about between YouTube, Google, Bing, and all other sites around the world, a child can sit in his or her room at the age of 10 and acquire knowledge which we wouldn't have acquired all our lives from the time we're born to the time we're 20, 25, because we never would have seen nor would have gathered experiences, since our parents would not have been able to boldly sit us down and talk to us the way we should. Two, the kids today are so well kept and catered to that the rate at which they blow up in terms of growth is far beyond. You see a 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old girl looks like a grown-up, fully developed. So what we have not done is stepped up our moral game, that is to talk to our kids from a tender age of at least 8 years old. My daughter is 8, but she wouldn't allow anybody to put her on her lap even when she was 3 or 4. So we need to understand that our kids have acquired so much knowledge that we should be able to entrust them with good education sexually that allow them to be independent, to make mistakes. But if you ground them in a way that we were grounded with civic education and the rest. We should be able to trust our kids not to make mistakes. By keeping education of this nature away from them, we are responsible for the damage that they will incur in the nearest future. So basically, because they already have all the skilled knowledge, both from what they see around and from the social media, the least we can do is allay their fears and prepare them for the future. And these kids are wise. They've seen the level of development that's happening in the advanced world just from the social media, and they know they want to be like these kids who are so advanced and so polished. So if we give them the chance, even in Africa, they can do exactly what the kids around the world are trying to achieve. And when I look at what SARA Yante was doing in my Gibi the other day, and I saw how happy the women were, I felt elated because a lot of the kids, people wonder who are. I'm more focused on the girls' child though, the girls' children, because most of my scholarships in Liberia are for females, especially from primary school all the way to university. Then when they finish, they have to take a new batch. You realize today I spent the whole day talking to them, and all they were talking about was, "Daddy, we will not disappoint you. You've told us this, you've told us that," and most of them have changed their names, their last names, and some of their names to Chris Lane,
Thank
and
you.
all that stuff.
Thank you, Chris. Let us go to Shelter, and then I will have a unique question for Mrs. Yante. Shelton?
I think the issue here is so prevalent. If you calculate what we're talking about here, the space and time. If we go back to our days growing up in Liberia, while it is true that rape was existential, but it was not as, more prevalent as it is now. And between the years, we had a great discussion 2 nights ago where we talked about mental health and what is trending in Liberia relating to that topic. But coming back to the rape and sexual based violence, when we look at the family that cannot provide for itself because of the strain in the economy, no jobs, the hardship, the child sometimes tend to go astray as a result. Now, while it is true that these sex may not be consensual because of the age disparity, sometimes it's because they're going to fend for themselves, which the society also plays a part. Um, the cost of living, the hardship, all of those things are attributes that or variables that rather make it compelling for some of these things to happen. But to come to you, Sarah, financial capacity is critical to meeting some of these humongous issues in Liberia. We have a government right now that is scrabbling to make it financially. They've not been able to meet the budgets, and it's been difficult. They have not apportioned money that will tackle some of these societal issues. How do you fund such initiative if you wanted to go community by community outside of the government? I know that there are international funding that put in place by some of the global partners, but how do you tap into that resources? Because Liberia, among 8 African countries, is one of the recipients, but I'm sure that money goes to government, it may be misappropriated, and then we get nowhere. How do you, uh, solicit funding to take on such an initiative?
So for the most part, all that I've been doing over the years in terms of community work has been self-funded. And I've been doing community work since about 2001. Different types of community work, from feeding the elderly in my community in Brewerville, for those who are over 62, and from doing that all the way to what I'm doing today. So I've been doing the community work over the years for a very long time. And you're speaking to the Spotlight Initiative, I think, when you talk about the issue of the global donor funding and Liberia being a participant. It's the Spotlight Initiative of the UN and the EU, and that's being implemented in Liberia. We're not beneficiaries of that. We're not implementing partners of the Spotlight. We remain a community-based entity, a community-based movement, and we try to do proof of principle along with the community. So what we implement is in partnership with the community. It's not any donor funding from any outside entity. and really demonstrating the fact that we as Liberians can do a lot on our own, even in the absence of large-scale funding. There's some things you can do in Liberia at the community level that requires us as Liberians who have the knowledge and skills, partnering with the communities who have the need and working together to address the needs. And all of these are critical and necessary for us to be able to move forward. But you address a very serious point. You call it critical, I call it essential as well. We cannot move forward if we don't have the economic situation change in the country for every Liberian. If we don't have economic opportunities, if we don't have income generating opportunities, if families are not empowered with the resources they require to take care of their children. I was speaking with a friend, a classmate in the diaspora, who was saying that in the past he heard people saying they don't like going home too much. And he just made a recent visit to Liberia, and he said it changed his perspective because he realized that even because people are begging for the sake of begging, people just don't have it. If a father doesn't have money to feed his children, doesn't have money to send them to school, it's better he asks somebody to help him than for him to steal or for him to become an armed robber. So it's not a matter of begging as you have street peddlers begging. It's a matter of grave, abject poverty and the need for us to ensure that the average Liberian who wants to be an income earner to take care of their families has the opportunity to do so. And that's something that you cannot address at the community level alone. That's something you have to address at all levels, most especially, it is the duty of the government to ensure that it brings in investments and it brings in foreign direct investments and brings in other players and it strengthens the private sector to make sure that we have job creation. Because when you have a country where the vast majority of the employed are working for the government, you have destruction at its beginning. You have no progress. There's no way the government can be the leading employer in a nation and expect economic growth and development and be proud of that. So
Okay.
the issue here is for us to ensure economic opportunities for the poorest of the poor.
Well, folks, if you just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on this New Year's Eve, and our honorary for tonight is Kimberly Kamara. She celebrates her birthday today. Congratulations, Kim. And let us show hope that you live to see many, many more birthdays to come. Kim is, in fact, the CEO of a very robust organization, Never Ending Emotions, LLC, located in Philadelphia. And she's also the author of Where's My Daddy, a book that is trending now on Amazon. One of the things I have not heard many people talk about, Mrs. Yante, you can come in and then we can go to crates and work our way uh, around the world, is the problem of counseling. We have 14 years of civil war. People were traumatized, parents killed in front of you. Sometimes you were raped in the presence of your husband, and these people walk around today as if nothing happened, both in Liberia and in America. Sometimes you wonder why the people think and talk the way they talk, because they never went through counseling. It's something that has to be done. And I want to know if your organization has a place in there to one day provide that for the two huts that you have now, and to go through that in the future.
Thank you. I think maybe because of the semantics around the language used, maybe it wasn't clear at the beginning, but the female psychosocial support, the psychosocial support provided by the female social worker is counseling. It's provided for both learning huts for the girls. So they have counseling available to them. And the counseling is supposed to be addressing trauma of different types that they might have encountered, but also educating them on what to do should they have a situation where they're confronted with people trying to prey on their innocence, and or if even their households, they're confronted with some vulnerabilities around that, how to handle that, who to report to, and so forth. So yes, the both learning huts, the girls benefit from counseling through the psychosocial support. The The issue that you speak to is one that I've been talking about for a long time, which is the fact that we are a country that is traumatized. We are a people that's traumatized. Even Liberians in the diaspora who had to leave in the way they left are traumatized. The only difference is that some of them are in places where they have access to psychosocial support as part of their job benefits and so forth and so on. So they get counseling and they get the support that they require. But the average Liberian is traumatized. When you've gone through what we've been through as a people, you have nothing but trauma. And those who were perpetrators, those who were children and perpetrators as child soldiers who were demobilized and reintegrated into society, into their communities and so forth, and given counseling to take them through that period, that was insufficient. That was totally insufficient. They've become adults. They have not been sustained with that with that counseling. They have not been, followed through. It would be wonderful to have a cohort or two of those children who are demobilized and so forth, see where they are today and look at and do some analysis around what they're doing today. I pretty much am sure that some of the data we'll get out of that will show us that these are some of the people who are finding it difficult to cope. There's some of the people who are finding it difficult to make their way forward because of what they've been through as children. So definitely, for sure, counseling is required for Liberia at all levels. I need counseling. You need counseling, ASHFORD, for things you've been through. Everybody needs counseling for things they've been through. That's the truth. And so imagine those who have been participants in the war. Imagine those who have been victims of the war. Victims they often become perpetrators. That's the truth. And if you have perpetrators who have never been truly healed from what they were indoctrinated into as children, they will continue that into adulthood. And so if you look at all of that and look at Liberia today, there's no reason for us to wonder why we have all these young people who are armed robbers and who are in the slums and they're being called Zogos and so forth. These are bright talents of Liberia who have lost their way because they didn't have the support that they required. And so definitely, for sure, counseling is required at all levels, and we continue to have counseling being implemented as an ad hoc for certain projects. And even I'm to blame for that. I'm doing counseling right now for the girls in the learning hut, but it's only for them. It's not for their siblings. It's not for their parents. It's not for other people in the community. It's only for that project for those girls that benefit from the learning hut because I don't have the resources. But somebody somewhere needs to realize that Liberians need counseling, and we need that support at all levels, and make sure it's institutionalized as part of our service delivery mechanism in the country because it's really required.
Chris?
If you look at what she said, she's actually encompassed the whole situation into a very nice egg laid by an ostrich. The first start up from where we broke out a peace deal in Ghana that led to the deactivation of the various groups that enabled us to establish the DDRR, and which should have been an opportunity for us to start to rehabilitate and reintegrate those kind of people in society. We missed that opportunity because it was not done at all. The kids were more focused on how much they were getting for the arms they were putting in. So we are suffering today because there was not even a startup to this particular agenda. And don't forget, when we look at the issues relating to psychosocial and the counseling, as to the issue of rape and the rest, it's all like a buy-over from the past into the future. So we have a more complicated situation today because we had child soldiers who lost their morals and were only interested in drugs. They were indoctrinated into drugs to be able to go on the front line and feel secure and feel bold to do things that they wouldn't have done if they were normal. And now they've inculcated a new lifestyle. So our worry, yes, is core building capacity along with serious counseling, as well as a reintegration till today, which we have not been able to achieve. So what Sarah is talking about with the hotspot, you have seen her do, and what I think needs to be done, with especially the fact that as of today on the governmental level, we are losing more. I'm sure you know about the organization called OSIWA. OSIWA is closing up in Liberia at the end of December. Oh, sorry. It has closed up because we're in a new year. So it means that that institution that used to empower, along with several other institutions that used to empower CBOs and the rest, have left. It's a huge gap they've left because there are so many female organizations, civil society organizations that they used to give grants to cater to all these activities are going to be stranded now. They can't get funding. So someone needs to look from somewhere and say, listen, we've seen what this person like Sarah is doing. We've seen what other person is doing. How can we make it a national policy, a national drive to move this particular stuff forward? Because if we can move it forward, we're definitely going to have problem with our generation, just with us and behind us. So it has to be a consensus effort by everybody to make it work. And if you go back to where you were talking about the last issue about rape, I think it's a two-dimensional stuff. And I remember some time ago, a group of guys were sitting and discussing this issue. There must be the prosecution as well as the encouragement of families to be able to come out and speak as to these people who were in the vulnerable people who have actually had the opportunity of passing through this mess. Because the family value in Liberia covers up so much, we can't even find people coming out to actually say this person did it to me. And even when they did it, you find that because of the impoverished conditions, finances play a major role in cover up. So, and all that has happened can only be encompassed into one thing. We have carried over a lot of the darkness into the present. And yes, as much as counseling is playing a major role, we must be able to cater to that idleness.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go short on, and then I want Ms. Yante to be thinking about this. It's coming to her. This one comes from Mrs. Kimberly Kamara. She said, most people run away from counseling. How do you encourage them to seek help? You know, and the truth, somebody would tell you, say, nothing wrong with me. You know, I'm not crazy. I'm not, but deep down in the heart, something may not happen to them in the past, and it may have triggered something, and these people continue to say, I'm okay, I'm all right, but you know, and I know that something is going on. Sheldon, come in, we'll go back to Mrs. Yante.
So, to both our guests, Chris and Sarah, I will say this before you add your position to it. What I find intriguing is that our government over the years have not been able to provide the actual professionals. Sarah talked about the policy level, but when these funding come, government want to quickly put their hands around it, and sometimes those monies are funneled to run the ministry rather than use it for the intended purpose. Ministers and deputies and assistant ministers begin to pocket some of that money, and instead of bringing in organizations where they can devolve the responsibility to a like social movement for change, they will take that money and pretend like they're going to do something for the intended purpose. How do we change that? What do we need to do as a people? To say, listen, government, enough is enough. Every time money come, you run and you take control, but we don't see any result. What do we do as a people? Let's start with you, Chris.
No, since Chris just spoke,
Okay.
And then Chris can come in and buttress on that.
So 2 points to answer. Happy birthday, by the way, to our birthday lady. And I think the question came from her, right? The first question I asked her. Yeah, right. So happy birthday to our birthday lady, and wishing you many more birthdays to come. So the first question that came from her is about the issue of denial and the fact that many people who require counseling, they do not feel that they need it. And this is where the issue of intervention comes in, whether it's from your family or whether it's if, for example, if it's in the workplace, it's realized that you need counseling. There's some level of intervention that's required from others. But the truth is that unless a person agrees to be counseled, they can't be counseled, because counseling is two-way. It's not something that somebody gives to you. is something that is relational in terms of the counselor and the person receiving the counseling. So there's only so much that you can do in terms of trying to intervene for somebody who doesn't want that intervention. So having said that, we continue to offer it and try to intervene, but the truth of the matter is that you cannot force somebody to be counseled, and only hoping that the person will open up and receive the counseling. The issue of the role of government and the role of civil society, I think, is where you're going, Mr. Shelton. In terms of government's own role, government is there to put in place the policies, to make sure that they're implemented, to monitor. In some instances, government implements, but largely government implements, but also civil society is a large implementer of programs. And I think the civil society engagement with government is where we have some challenges. If you find now, speaking to some NGOs, the requirements now for them to function in Liberia are almost impossible. The registration, that the annual registration, the amounts of money they have to pay, for many civil society organizations, they can't continue. And this is something, and I thank you for raising that, Mr. Shelton, because this is an area where I don't think many people are aware of this. International NGOs may be able to cope with all the demands that government has put in place now, but not many local NGOs will be able to cope. Not CBOs will not be able to cope. And that's why I've started now funding very small money, but it's money that some organizations have never had. 100,000 Liberian dollars grant to CBOs, community-based organizations, and local NGOs. I've just given out the first 7 last week, and looking to give out more, because these organizations are the key to our success for tomorrow. These local organizations are the ones who know the people in need. They know what the people need, and they know how to intervene. These local organizations may not be registered. They may not even have a bank account, but they're the ones in the community. They know which households are suffering. They know which households need the help. They know which households they've had to support over the last month with food. They're the ones who are there in the trenches with them, and they're the ones who can respond. Government cannot come from the top to respond at the household level. It's these community organizations. They are secret to success. All of the changes we need in Liberia will not happen until communities are empowered and rise up to demand their rights. It's not going to happen. It happens from the household and community level, and that's where we need to be intervening. And I think we all should be advocating with government to make space and room for those interventions. Look, I've worked in so many countries heading up UN programs. I've been the head of UNICEF's largest program in the world, in Yemen, where we had the worst humanitarian crisis in the entire world, the worst emergency, and working with governments there, where you have multiple governments, and leading up, being the head of that institution for that country, and leading up civil society engagement and managing risks and difficulties in delivering programs. We're able to do it in that context and work with civil society organizations. Why can't we strengthen civil society organizations in Liberia? Why can't we ensure that they get the resources that they require? We need to all be raising our voices and pushing government to do the right thing, so that our local NGOs, our local CBOs can be able to function and get the resources they need. And government should be in the lead in advocating for that to happen.
Okay, we want to go back to Chris, but just before we do so, we want to recognize Brother Torbert Yunswa. He's a brother who supports social justice, free press, human rights, and democracy. He's listening and watching tonight. We want to say Happy New Year to you, Torbert, and enjoy the show tonight. Again, Mrs. Kimberly Kamara, enjoy your day. I'm pretty sure you're having a blast, because with you being an advocate as well, I'm pretty sure you are following in on the show. Grace?
Chris, your mic is mute.
First of all, I must say a big thank you to SARA Yante, because as much as I've traveled around the world for tourism, Yemen is not a place I will venture around. Basically because of what you hear and what you know that goes on there. But going forward, when you look at the situation as it relates to counseling, Shelton, SARA is very right. It's not only about counseling, about any other thing you're doing in life. If there's a self-denial, there's a little result you can get, and there's not much you can give. When it comes to the relations as to what government roles are and what happens, no matter how much money government receives internationally, because the problem with the governmental activities as it relates to these particular kind of activities are in threefold. One, no matter how much money you give government, she converts it to administrative functions. That's when people in that particular sector of government have all the travels they can make, all the padam they can get, and all the new cars. That's when there's a problem with the kind of paint on the building, the kind of furniture in the office, whereas the beneficiaries will lack none. Two, most important issue as it relates to these particular kind of problems in our society is that government does not take ownership. In Kenya, when the UN puts $5 million into a particular project, the government of Kenya puts $5 million as well. The same thing in Nigeria, but in Liberia, the government will tell you they put in 10% and the UN or the international organizations should bring 90%. That 90% comes and the government of Liberia will not put 1 cent out of that 10% they should put, but rather they will want to take out of the 90% to do something else. So what happens is that it's an issue of being responsible and finding an opportunity to be obligated to a cause, because we are not entrenched with regulatory culture. We are not capable to understand the needs of our people and contribute to make it a better stuff. Ministry of Youth and Sports, for instance, Ministry of Gender, for instance, how much work have they focused on in relations to that? Most of these institutions are all into PR and they actually miss the agenda. So in essence, government needs to focus on good regulations and monitoring, but they also need to take ownership of these very core segments of societal growth to be able to make a difference. They should be able not just to fill in the gaps of these international organizations that come in to help these CBOs and the rest. They should be able to fund to an extent, but regulate the monitoring of these fundings that they put in. Sarah was very right when she said, what happens is that when you put in too much bottlenecks as in establishing these institutions, you make it almost impossible for those who are passionate to get the message across and do these works that will help rehabilitate and take these kids and individuals from the street.
Thank you, Chris. Again, I want to just open the telephone lines for at least 2 to 5 questions, because Mrs. Yante, just got in country today. She needs to get some rest. So the telephone number is on there, 248-979-1718. Call in if you have a question for our guest. Mr. Yante, you can begin calling now. And as we wait for callers to begin calling, Shelton, I want you to come and let's just get 1 or 2 callers so that we can retire Mrs. Yante tonight and continue with the show. We'll be here tonight for the next perhaps 1 hour, 30 minutes to 1 hour, and we want to engage with Chris as well. So once again, folks, the telephone number to call is 248-979-1718, and our honoree is sitting back, relaxing, Mrs. Kimberly Kamara. She's a very generous woman. I had the opportunity to visit her home because she's married to my childhood friend, George Cassidy Kamara. He said, I want my wife on the billboard tonight. I said, you sure? He said, listen, Ashford, I need my wife on the billboard. And there she is tonight on the billboard. And speaking of callers, we have a caller on the line. Hello, caller, the 215 number. Please listen. Please listen to the phone. Yeah, tell us your name, please. Hello.
Hi, it's Kimberly.
Hey, Kim. Congratulations.
Hi.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Hi.
Good. Do not listen to the receiver. Just listen to the phone. Go ahead. We're listening to you in real time. Go ahead and speak.
I was calling, and first of all, this topic is so taboo because a lot of people suffer in silence. Yeah, a lot of people are suffering in silence.
Okay, Kim, do not listen to the receiver. if I just listen to the phone speaking. There's a little delay, please. Just keep speaking.
Okay. I'm so glad that this topic has come up because there are so many children suffering and they need some help. The government should be held accountable for not allowing these children to be assisted. And the families need to take accountability as well and get these children to get the assistance that they need. Rape is a very detrimental thing that can happen to anybody. No one is exempt. And it is true, and it's a proven fact that when people are older adults, they tend to do the same thing that was done to them. So it's a generational thing that keeps occurring. And no one says anything. And now you have all these people suffering. So when does it stop?
Big question. When does it stop? That's a big question.
Yeah, when does it stop?
When all of us put our hands on deck.
When we all get ready and say, you know what, all hands on deck, perhaps, something might happen. But thank you, Kim. Enjoy the rest of the night. And we'll take one more call, and then Mrs. Yante will come in and address that situation. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a 302 number. Enjoy the rest of the night. 8839, please. Lawyer manager. Tell us your name, please.
Yeah, as for this is Moses Sandy from Delaware.
Mr. Sandy, rape, sexual, gender-based violence is something that is on the rise in Liberia. What is your take?
Expressing my thanks and appreciation to our sisters who are seeing the need to begin to champion the cause of women who are.
Someone is playing something in the background.
Hold on, Moses. Mm-hmm. Somebody is on the line and you are playing music. Can you please mute your phone? Mute your phone, please. Go ahead, Moses.
Yeah, what I was saying is that I would like to start off by expressing gratitude to our sister who has taken or have seen the need to take on this huge responsibility. Because when you talk about rape, sexual abuse of young men, sexual abuse of young women in our country, it is a huge problem. It is a problem that affects people all over the country. And there are a number of reasons why sexual abuse is so prevalent in Liberia. When we talk about sexual abuse, it affects men as well. It also affects women. In our country, a lot of things happens behind the scene. In some families, when the female is abused, nobody wants to report it because they see it as a family affair. In some culture, kids who are younger, because the law says that anyone who engages into a sexual relationship with someone below the age of 18, that's statutory rape. And that is very prevalent in most cultures in our country. You got a 16-year-old marrying to 50-year-old. You got a 17-year-old marrying to the grandparents. You also have older men who are sexually abusing younger men. And there are no more reasons for that. Poverty, like your host said, most of you have said earlier, poverty is one of those things that contributing to the prevalence of sexual abuse in our country. You may have a young man who lives in a community, and there's a man across the street that he considers to be uncle. Uncle is financially viable. He comes from a well-off family, and this young man comes from a very poor family. He goes there to help. The uncle takes advantage of him. The parents don't talk about it because they know that by talking about that or reporting it to the police, that is going to stop the financial support that uncle is providing for the family.
Thank you, Moses. Okay, one more minute. I'll give you 1 more minute.
Yeah.
Please wrap up. Yeah, 1 more minute, please.
Yeah. Poverty is one of the contributing factors. Culture is another factor, and the failure of families to prosecute. Nobody talks about these things. Anyone who speaks against it is considered to be an outcast in some families. So because of limitation of time, I would like to stop there. And I want to say thanks to all of you for the great discussion. It is very, very meaningful. So I can hear it.
Thank you. We have to get Mrs. Yante to get some rest, but we want to take Mosu Benson out of Maryland. Then we can have Mrs. Yante come in, and then we can have her leave to get some rest tonight. Mrs. Benson, how you doing? You live on the radio. Go ahead, man.
Thank you, Ashford. Happy New Year to you guys. And Mrs. Kamara, I want to tell you thank you for your hard work and what you're doing. I think before, I think last year or so, I told Ashford, my granddaughter was raped. I think I told Ashford earlier about that story. And we arrested the man, they had in jail. They went through to Senior York, and she went and set him free. And he passed it in Monrovia. He joined the ruling party. Nobody can do anything to him. And he walking free. But thank God I was able to get some of my girlfriends and bikers were able to counsel her and talk to her. And she's doing extremely well in school. But what you are saying, the government, they will arrest the people, and the government, the lawyers and they're setting them free. The government, if they have interest in the people, they will let them go. And that's what happened to the guy who was in jail for 6 months. One of the relatives went to Kenya and talked to her, and she let him go. And he walking free there in Liberia. You know, it's so painful. It's very, very painful. It's very, very painful. So sometimes families do that, but the government, those who are authority, they set it up, guys, they're free. They're walking freely. So they can go back and watch another young child, and they know when they go to jail, they will be set free. So I don't know how to talk. You're doing extremely, extremely well. But it's so hard. It's so hard because this government is not doing anything. I know one of my girlfriends too. Her 10-year-old daughter was raped. They grabbed the man, they put him in jail because he was some big man in the ruling party. They set him free, and he driving up and down in Monrovia. So it's so hard to talk.
Thank you, Sis.
I don't know how to talk about it. It's so hard.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Enjoy the rest of
the you,
all right.
Thank you, Ashford.
Okay. Hey, Mrs. Yante, I know you just got home, and we're so sorry to just grab you and bring you on British Radio. But you just listen to your people, man. You know, I want you to just come in, weigh in, and then you can retire for the night. I would hang on with Chris and Shelton and engage the people.
So no, thank you very much. And I was listening to Miss Benson earlier, and even to our friend from Delaware. Look, all of the things they said are true, but a couple of points. So I'll go back to something we were talking about earlier. I think it was Mr. Shelton who was talking about that. I'm not sure, but we're talking about the issue of poverty, and we're talking about the issue of the fact that many poor families end up taking decisions for their children, not necessarily because they don't care, but because they don't know any better, they don't know what the consequences will be, and because they don't have the means and so forth. Now, having said that, it's not always the case that the perpetrators prey on those kinds of situations. Some people are just wicked. You have some wicked people doing some wicked things to children. And it's not necessarily even about funding or money or poverty. Now, what's my name? My name is SARA BEYSLOW NYANTI, right? For those who may know my background or know the family I come from, the BEYSLOW family is a family. It's a small family, but a family that comes from decent means. A family known for rubber, and I'm married to Nyanti. Yeah, so SARA BEYSLOW NYANTI. You hear my name. When I was a child, I didn't have the Nyanti. It was Sarah Frances BEYSLOW at the time. And I didn't have the Nyanti attached to it. But I can tell you, my parents had the means. My parents well-traveled. I was well-traveled as a child and so forth and so on. Yet and still, I was preyed on. I was preyed on at the age of 8. I remember coming out of school, coming out of convent, and a friend of my parents was at the gate at convent waiting for me. And he said to me, your parents should pick you up from school. He said, your parents asked him to pick you up to take you home. So I believed him. He was always at our house. So I believed him. I went with him. And then he drove him by this building in Cinco. He said, this is my office. This is where I work. Anytime you need anything, don't go to your parents. Come to me. I will provide it for you. He knew that my mother and my father were not together. So I don't remember the exact words he used, but he was preying on the fact that my parents were not together. And he said, you don't need to be bothered with all of that. Just come to me. So you don't have to go to one parent or the other parent. Just come to me. Here is where it is. It's not far from your house. He shows me the distance from my house to his office building, so forth and so on. He gives me $20. He says, I notice your shoes are not new. I notice your shoes are worn, right? So take this $20 at 8 years of age. He says, take this $20, buy yourself a pair of shoes, keep the change. And at that time, I was 8 years old. $20 was a huge bit of money. Keep the change. Anytime you need anything more, come to me. So I get out of here. He doesn't drop me at my house. He drops me at the gate of my house. So I get down from the car. I walk straight to a cousin of mine, an elder cousin of mine, at their house. I didn't go home. I went straight to their house. And I said, this thing just happened. This man went to my school. I explained the whole thing to her. And she said, what did he give you? I said, here's the money. She said, give him the money. She said, don't tell anybody about it. Just give him the money. Don't say anything. And if he comes to the school, he can tell me. So I get home. I leave the money with her. And I'm sitting there thinking, what? This whole thing doesn't make sense to me. So my mother comes home and says, something happened today. And I explain all of the events to her. And I never saw that man again in my life. Definitely, he never went to our house again. All I know is that my mother put her things down and left the house. She left for some hours. And when she came back, that was it. I never saw that guy again until I heard he was dead. As an adult, I heard he was dead.
Sorry, guys, I have to interfere. Let's say the Iron Lady did some action behind the scene.
So what I'm saying here is that the issue of violence against children, the issue of statutory rape, yes, it affects the poorest of the poor the most seemingly, but I tell you, it's pervasive in our society, and it's not just a today thing. It's been there. And people prey on children. There are some men who prey on children, little girls and little boys. That has to be dealt with. The unfortunate thing is that they're the ones in power. They're the ones who hold the power. They're the ones who manage the institutions. They're the ones who call the shots. So at the end of the day, you're talking about dealing with the institutions. You're talking about dealing with a structure and a system that has preyed on children for generations. How do we stop that? We stop that by rising up and saying enough is enough. It will happen no more to our children. That's how we stop that. We stop this cycle of violence and wickedness by rising up, and it starts with a few. It can start with the 4 of us on this call today. It can start with 10 of us or 100 of us saying, at the end of the day, we'll hold people to account. Men that we know are preying on little girls. Men that we know who are going behind their friends and going to their friends' daughters and so forth. We out them. We start to talk about it openly and just say enough is enough. But until we do that, and we all know some of those people, by the way, we all know some of them. We all know men who prey on little girls. We all know it, but we condone it because we're silent. And once we're silent, we are accomplices to this crime. And once a man goes out with a little girl, it's statutory rape. Or a little boy, it's statutory rape. And we're encouraging rape when we keep the silence. And enough is enough. We have to start talking about it. So what I would say is that we need to make this a common conversation at tables where we sit And we need to let men who have been doing this for generations and pass it down to their children, and their children have felt it's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. And we need to say that. We need to defriend friends who we know are doing that. You have friends that do it. Stop it. Stop being friends with them. Tell them, you know what, until you stop doing this kind of a thing, I don't have any evidence against you. If I had evidence, I would take you to court. But since I don't have any evidence, I don't want to be bothered with you if you're continuing engaging this kind of behavior. Something needs to change. We cannot continue to condone this as a people. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chris?
We need to name and shame.
Naming and shaming is one thing. Chris, you remember growing up long before the social media, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
If your girlfriend didn't go to school on Thursday, you would not see her until Monday. And when you are lucky that somebody who lives close to where she lives, you write a letter, to send to her and say, "Oh, sorry, I miss you." There was no telephone then. I mean, for us who grew up in a very poor area, we never had telephone, and there was no social media. You can't get on Facebook and say, "Oh, why I didn't see you in school today," and stuff like that. As we approach the new year tomorrow, we want to retrospect a little bit. I know Mrs. Yante, she can leave now if she wants, but just elevating the conversation. You said something very interesting. You said a 10-year-old child today is well informed than even his or her parents. I had my first cell phone in 1997. And in the whole country, we're by about 50 people that have cell phone in the country. That was on the radio back then in Liberia. And I had to befriend the older boys because they were the only ones that had cell phone. 97. I had my Ericsson phone, Today, a child can handle the cell phone. And if you temper with that child the wrong way, you will be exposed. A lot of these people are beginning to get exposed now because of the coming in of the social media and the coming in of the cell phone as well. All we can do now, Chris, is to continue to name and shame these people. What conversation can you have with a 12 or 13-year-old? We saw the situation where a representative raped the niece of his driver at age 12, 13. They took the child out of the country. Up to today, we have not heard from the child. Are you surprised that he was not really like that? Because the people are stupid. They are listening now. Don't take the Liberian people for granted. We get away with stuff for so long. And the point where they decide to come and speak out, they will speak out. So these people who continue to protect these evil people, God said, yeah, one man, yeah, one woman, but some men decided that they want to go after men. Why behind men you see now, only you alone know. Our small brother and sister, our brother then now, they have to turn their behind before they can survive. I don't know the kind of pleasure they see in that. I have a daughter 31 years old. I have a daughter 19 years old. I have a son 14. And you have kids who are older than these children, but you still go after them because of poverty.
Ashford, before Chris comes in, and can I please use this opportunity to sort of segue to my goodbye?
Yeah.
Let me just say a couple of things. And first and foremost, I would be saying to all of the children, all of the young people, all of the adolescents of Liberia.
Mhm.
Don't settle for less. You are so valuable. You're
Clear.
worth so much more. Don't settle for less. You can be anything that you want to be. And we are raising our voices to say that we want to help you to become that. We want you to reach your fullest development potential. I sit today as the highest ranking librarian in the UN. And somebody will take that position one day soon from me, I'm sure, because librarians will continue to rise. But at the end of the day, I've headed the largest UNICEF program in the world. I'm going forward to serve as the representative of the Secretary General in the country. I'm reaching those places today because Liberia gave me the opportunity to reach them. I come from the same Liberia you are from, and you can reach where I am and go further. Do not let anybody truncate your destiny. Do not let anybody steal from you what they don't have. It's not theirs to take. Your life is not theirs to take. Your confidence is not there to take. Your voice is not theirs to take. Don't let them take it. And where they've tried to take it, fight back. Report them. Speak up. Let your voice be heard. You are somebody. Liberia needs you. You may just be that key to Liberia's success tomorrow. Do not give up your hope and do not give up who you are because you feel that there's nobody there to stand with you and stand for you. And the next thing I would say is that wherever you feel vulnerable or threatened, you feel you're at risk, report to somebody, report to your community leader, report to the police, report to somebody. I know the systems are not perfect, but there are people who are trained and are being supported to help you. Do not suffer in silence. Do not suffer alone. Find somebody to talk to. And in this new year that we're embarking on 2021, let 2021 be the year for Liberia's children. Let 2021 be the year where you rise up and raise your voices. You may not be able to do it at a ballot box because you haven't reached the age to vote, but you can do it by raising your voices wherever you are. Thank you, Ashford, and thank you, Mr. Shelton. Thank you, Mr. Nanuga. I will be signing off, wishing you all a very happy and prosperous new year, and wishing the best for Liberia as we continue to journey through where we find ourselves.
Sarah,
Thank
there's a question for you. How can people contribute to this noble cause you like going through right now? Because I just listened to what you said in the HOTS and the activities and the results that we ought to get from the things you're doing. And somebody might say, listen, Sarah said she's giving those small grants of 100,000 LD, which these institutions will not be able to get in rural Liberia and other places. And maybe I can take care of 2 HOTS. How would they be able to do that? You're far away on your mission. How would they be able to solve those problems? To contribute.
Thank you for asking. So we recently just set up because as I said before, all of this time has been out of pocket. Now we've set up Operation Impact Liberia, which is a fundraising entity. It's applied for 501c status in the US. And so people can give through Operation Impact Liberia, or they can contact me directly. I will share the details of Operation Impact Liberia with Mr. Garley, and he can put it up at some point. But thank you for asking the question.
Thank you. And do have a wonderful time wherever you're going to be. And we ask God's protection on you.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. May God see us through this 2021.
Amen.
All right, Chris, so you're left with me right now.
Oh, yeah? Should I be scared?
No, you shouldn't.
Okay.
I believe you're on the grounds, right? Maybe in Liberia.
I'm in the States right now, packing my bags.
But what I mean, you permanently based.
I'm grounded in Liberia. That's my base.
Okay, let's do this. Folks, listen, we have a call on the line. I think we'll have Aliyu. Aliyu, you live on the radio. Go ahead and make your point.
Yes, great show. I'm looking at a number here. The only thing I can think of is CNN, SNBC, and the BBC. This is the kind of audience that they can pull. So you guys are pulling. I mean, you guys are becoming competitors now of international media. And that's great. A great show tonight. I listened to the lady. She said some very important thing. The thing has been systematized. You know, look, back in the days, and I'm gonna be open to say this, and it wasn't even that far back in the days, in the 90s and in the
That's what I think we lost him.
We lost Ashford as well.
Yeah. Nothing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, Ashford.
He's not there.
Yeah, he's in the back. I can see him from here. But
Okay.
but yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about quickly was the reason I asked the question earlier was, how government always try to take control, but they don't have the expertise to provide the service.
Shelton, Aliyu is still speaking. Let he complete
Oh,
his.
we couldn't hear anything.
Okay, maybe because I went in the back and go ahead, Aliyu.
So you're talking to
Yeah,
you.
everybody hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, like I was saying, I enjoyed the sister and the show. I say it's about time. I'm glad that the time has come. I'm just trying to admonish the girls back in the days, during our days, where it was a normal thing. It was very normal to sleep with girls younger than about 5 younger than you. At that time, it was normal. But now that the light has shined, and the girls that was involved who did not consider it to be anything, and the guys who also did it before and that not considered to be anything, they should be at the forefront of this thing by helping these people understand that, hey, even though this thing was an old normal, but we have come to realize that psychologically it has affected not just our girls, but the society. Because when girls are not educated as a result of getting pregnant and dropping out of high school, the society gets problem. When a woman is educated, the entire society is educated. And because our girls have not been able to foster their education because of some of these bad practices, our system has become very, very bad. So I want the girls who have become women now, who were victim of some of these things and not knowing it, and they consider it a normal. Now that their eyes are open, and both boys and girls, now that their eyes are open, all of us, it's time for us to get in front of the bear wagon of this fight and inform people, look, this happened before, we did this before, and it was normal back then, but we didn't know any better. Now that we know, we're telling you what we did before. You should not do it because it's not good for you. It has to go through the length and breadth of the country. And let me just say this, I'm pretty sure my sister is still listening. Some women are using these things also for international recognition. When you go down on the ground where the action really is, the things are still happening. What I want them to do also is to actually be serious about this matter, not to just get recognition from the United Nations and the UNICEF. As you can see, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf formed a ministry specifically putting women as head of that ministry, the gender ministry. And even with those women heading those ministries, if you go to the gender ministry now, you see majority of the employees are women. But rape, the statutory rape, have still gone on the increase. The traditional practices of people keeping those things private in the villages and towns and other provinces are still going on. Nothing have changed. What you're hearing on social media is just a little piece of what's happening. So the things are still there. I'm just admonishing that this thing become a union of force, not just people who have access to travel to the UN and get recognition or get connected to a government and then get big positions and still don't try to resolve the matter. That's all I wanted to say, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Aliyu. Thank you so much. And Chris, you listen to Aliyu, and one of the things that I want to tell Aliyu about is that Mrs. Yante just returned to the States. She was in Liberia, and the whole while she's been in Liberia. She talked about the two huts. The two of 60 young ladies, young girls, anywhere from counseling and to education. So that they can become decent people in society. You listen to her. She's the most senior Liberian with positions.
She doesn't need recognition. She's not looking for recognition.
Exactly. And she doesn't even brag about this. And I think her presence in Liberia, The fact that she can say to a young girl, listen, you mean more to the world. All is not lost. You can one day become somebody. Don't give up. Don't give up in life.
There is something that Aliyu said
Yeah.
when he spoke at the Ministry of Gender,
Mm-hmm.
and that Ellen established Ministry of Gender and appointed women as heads. Ellen never established the Ministry of Gender. That was one of the best things that came out of Charles Taylor's government. And more so, Ministry of Gender has misconstrued its natural function. That's why it's called gender. It is not a women's ministry. It's a collaboratory agency that allows men and women to cooperate to be able to deal with the vices that affect the weaker sex, women, and also men. But because it is now driven in a single direction, there's a major problem in terms of expected results. Ashford and Shelton, I'll give you an example. We are aware that our wives require certain level of independence to perform in the house, and they want to go to parties and the rest. They want to go out and socialize with their friends. But because of this gender inequality, gender empowerment, X, Y, and Z, the women sometimes don't collaborate with the men. They just tell a man, say, I want to go out so and so time. And they expect the man to agree, forgetting to know they have wifely and motherly responsibilities. So if I'm the man seeing my woman want to prove that she knows too much, I will not talk. It is when she's about to go out, I'll say, baby, I want to eat. I want pepper soup. So you see now, the society will look at her bad if she decides to go out without taking care of the responsibility of her husband. But if there's a cooperation between both of them, it comes out smooth. He doesn't need that pepper soup at that time. His wife can go out and come back. So in reality, the actual purpose for which the Ministry of Gender was established is being stepped in the wrong direction. So we're not getting the results we ought to get. And that is why we have a lot of girls having problems. My institution investigated a long roll of issues during the early period, and what we discovered was that even the girls that were found on the streets, the girls who had got pregnant on the streets as street girls, like the Zogos, as people call it, those babies, when they were taken by the Ministry of Gender, we ran to follow those cases for about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 of those babies. We were not able to find out where those babies went to. So there's a lot of things happening.
Chris, let me pick your brain for a minute. Let me make good use of your wisdom. Somebody said over the last few days that there will never be gender equality in Liberia because the men feel that they will always overpower the women, even with the presence of a female president for 12 years. Ellen was not able to do things to balance the gender. And the men in Liberia feel that there will be no way that they and the women can be on the same level. Look at today. We have only one female senator. You can clearly see that there was cheating in Bakbodu County. You can also clearly see that there was cheating in Nima County. But will we ever balance gender in that country, Chris?
Yes, I think there's
you have
hope.
One of the biggest platforms in the country. You in 12 to 15 counties just from your radio stations.
Yes, I think we can get to that height, but it's a very high height because right now we have a society that is very myopic, eccentric, dogmatic, and very counterproductive, especially when facing the opposite sex. If you notice, one of the sweetest phrases in Liberia is "It is our time." And "It is our time" is a damaging phrase. When Ellen came to power, the women said, "It is our time." And most of the events that took place with women were sensationalized. Like I just told you about the Ministry of Gender misstepping what it is that it should do. The Ministry of Gender should develop policies that carry men and women along to be able to empower the women and make a difference. So you see, when you see Senate passing a bill to say they're keeping 50% of the seats for women, if you pass that bill, does that make it possible? Does that say it will work? Are you going to tell a man with ambition in Bapulu not to contest or a man in Basel not to contest? The truth of the matter is, we must first of all develop the policies, and there must be the orientation. Where we have made mistake is the ability to educate, educate, and educate. No nation survives with half education and stoppage. It must be educate, educate, and educate. And the purpose for which that education ought to be consistent needs to be known. That's when orientation, orientation, orientation. So it's education, orientation, education, orientation. We can get there because honestly, the women are better equipped to control the ability to which men are greedy for corruption, to which we perform so highly in impunity, with impunity. Look, where in every society where the oppressed are oppressed and the onlookers watch, sooner or later the onlookers will become the oppressed, because then we empower the oppressors. And in the case of any nation, those who are being oppressed or those who are oppressing are actually being oppressed too. So we need to find a balance to educate, educate, and educate. But in educating, we must empower. What is it that we're doing to empower those women who are educated? What is it are we doing to empower those men who are educated? Especially the fact now the globe is small on social, as well as with the level of travels that we have gone through. Remember, people say our education is very bad. Shelton, you know that's the normal saying, right? That we have bad education, etc., etc. But have you seen a Liberian who left Liberia on scholarship to go outside of Liberia to have a master's degree and doesn't excel? Have you ever seen one? We have
It's possible.
come again.
It's possible.
It's very possible, but unfortunately, I haven't seen one because we have a resilience to adapt to a particular situation wherever we go. It's the same thing with how we behave. We got to America, we obey all the traffic rules, all the traffic laws. When we get back to Liberia, we're a mess. So it simply means that what we have missed is that while the countries we go to have educated and orientated and maintained their laws by being strong on prosecution, we have only done one thing: lip service our ability to educate, orientate, and actually be strong on the laws. If we choose to do that and create a necessary atmosphere for equal participation, we will have women doing what men are doing and still have respect to maintain their homes. It is a bit trickish, but it is possible.
Sure.
Shelton, come in, brother. We have 17 minutes to go. And you just heard Chris. Are you there, Shelton?
I'm right here. I think the whole issue here begins with our resolve as a people, what we want for ourselves. And I think the perfect example Chris gave is education, which is the driver of empowerment. But when you learned and you live in an economy that does not provide incentives for you to become empowered, then of course it's useless.
You don't see the reason to be empowered.
Yeah. So here we are in America, irrespective of your level of education, you can become empowered by your desire to work. So it's not all about how much book you know, how much you've learned, but this country provides the avenue for every little job you do to be paid. Whether you are a janitor and you do your work well, you get paid. On the contrary, in Liberia, there are thousands and thousands, if not millions, of people who have some degree of education, but it cannot be empowered because the economy does not provide that opportunity. There's no, investment in the country. Businesses are not booming. Institutions are not created to provide job opportunities. And these are the things that continue to plague us. And you know, and the reason why it hurts so much is because we've grown up in two parts of Liberia, meaning the mid 70s into the 90s, where the war started. We saw what Liberia was. We knew how we felt, what we achieved, what we could accomplish, our dreams and aspirations. And then we come in the 90s to now the 20s, meaning 2020, these 30 years of just complete, you know, broken down society. In as much as we said we've graduated from a war and 2005 we usher in the government, that's what sometimes I blame Ellen. And I blame Ellen for not taking us back to pre-war Liberia. And it was possible in those 12 years. Rather than rather than just letting these guys come to join her government and just get rich. And the first 6 years she seemed to be up for the tax, and the last 6 years was just let's just ride the wave and get out of here. So that's what has hurt our country. And unfortunately, we have a president now who has taken 3 years, and his agenda is different. And so we continue to regress and not make progress. And of course, I keep saying you can build all the infrastructure in Liberia if the people don't have the willingness to utilize those infrastructure based on the education, the sense they have to enjoy and do the right thing. The traffic lights are there. Chris just talked about it. The traffic lights are here. They perform the same role, irrespective of the country they're found in. The traffic lights supposed to stop you, slow you down, and let you go.
And Shelton, speaking of the traffic light,
it doesn't change.
Speaking of the traffic light, we read about the Nigerian house. There's a traffic light there. I stop for the light.
Oh yeah, they come past by you.
And the guy coming.
They'll be holding.
He said, "Look at this stupid papi. Why you stopping here for? Why you holding the traffic for?" I said, "What?"
Yes. So the point
is red, and I'm stopping, and you come and insult me because I stopped.
Okay, let me give you an example of something.
So I just wanted to finish on point quick, Chris, and you coming. So what I'm saying here is that the traffic light functions the same anywhere in the world. It is just people adhering to the policy, people upholding the functions of the traffic light and respecting it. And unfortunately, that's not the case in Liberia. Our government officials run through the traffic lights. Our president run through the traffic light because they got the big sirens and they can do whatever they want to do. And so pimping boys run through the traffic light, get drivers run through the traffic light. Everyone runs through the traffic light, and that's why we're where we are. So those little things, if we can improve them, we can improve the greater country.
Chris,
I will tell you this: in 2015, something happened at the ELWA junction. I was coming from my office going to town, and then I realized that the traffic light, the police at the junction there held the traffic so that one group can go from the other. And just where they have Jamal Hospital, just before the hospital, I had parked to get my staff to get down when I saw this minister bulldozing this deputy minister bulldozing his way to break the control of the police that had given an instruction. So I parked across the road. He said, "Can you not see that it's a red plate? This is a red plate." And when I saw it, I got down. I went there. I said, "Officer, what do you want?" He said, "Chief, I'm trying to get the traffic to move because it's too jammed. The people going to ELWA got to pass, and the minister is saying that I'm breaking the rule, he must pass." So I went to him. I said, "I gave the last warning. If you don't reverse that car and let this policeman carry out his job and you humiliate him and disgrace him here because you won't show power, what you will get from me, you will not like it at all." He said, "But Chris, you." I said, "Don't be bobo. Just reverse the car." So most time in Liberia, I get down from my car to help to direct the traffic. And people say, "Oh, that Chris there again." But in actuality, it's the right thing to do because we have a country, we have a system, and it must work. And sometimes when I hear people say, "Oh, maybe Chris won't run for," I can never ever run for political position in Liberia because it's not my calling. I could serve the people without being in a position of authority. Just as for you are here, Shelton, you are here, you all have your callings. But there is this urge to see things done right. That's what we miss it. And because of the fact that I travel to so many countries for tourism purposes and the rest, I get to realize that we are not disobedient to laws. No. We just have this culture of the Liberian way. And we must become the Liberian way when we get into Liberia. But once we step out, we must obey. Just in Ghana, we obey. We obey.
That's right. Hey, folks. Just like that, I want to show some love to our honoree tonight, Mrs. Kimberly Harris. We have a song here that I want to play for her. Hey, my people, what is song going here? Yo, what play this song for?
Man, you have not even wished me happy pre-birthday.
Well, wish you.
It's almost 1 hour away now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, happy pre-birthday to Volcano Shelton. This brother celebrates his birthday tomorrow, New Year's Day. In fact, after midnight, we'll be celebrating Shelton's birthday. Shelton, congratulations. Happy pre-birthday. May God continue to bless you. And with the many people that are watching right now, please join me in wishing Shelton a happy pre-birthday.
Shelton, happy birthday.
Thank you. Coming up. I'm watching the time here.
I know. Let me
get your DIY
let me see
goals
if
going.
we can find Shelton. Listen, Chris, you can go ahead because I've just found a song for Mrs. Kamara, you know, and for some reason the song disappeared. It was a very beautiful song that I want to play for her. You know, I'm pretty sure she will love this.
I thought you were going on the president's album, Mr. Lion Man, or Happy Birthday. Play the president happy birthday.
I tired giving that man relevance, man.
ASHFORD, I want you guys to know.
You know that we came out to know we didn't talk about Josh Riyad, and we're still looking good, right?
Yeah.
We call his name tonight.
Hey man, listen. No, I just had a song. Happy birthday. If you fit the occasion.
Why you calling him man in here for? But leave that man. Let that man do a thing.
Yeah, Chris, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was trying to inform you that on the 29th of February, I'll be releasing my album.
Oh, you also in music business?
Oh, but I'm one of the major promoters of Liberian entertainment.
Okay.
So nothing stopped me. I want to sing one song for you on the album.
Okay.
So we can celebrate the good times. But in reality, Shelton, we have a major problem.
Seriously?
Our problem is just the Liberian way. If we can just break the jinx of the Liberian way, and the easiest way to break that jinx is government needs to be very strong on prosecution.
That's it. Simple as that. No compromise.
Just strong on prosecution. And stop lying on people. Stop creating false impression about people. Just face the issue of being forceful on prosecution and being very objective with policies. Look, if there's political will to make things happen in Liberia, Liberia is a perfect country. Remember you said something, you said, we remember our days from the 70s to the 90s?
Yeah.
And what happened? Let me tell you something. I grew up in part of Liberia where everything evil passed over me.
Absolutely.
Because growing up in Blackbar, that's the arsenal, that's the defense ministry, and that is the BTC, Lynn Street. When they say coffee 6 o'clock, we go to bed 4 o'clock. But in all that, I remember we used to walk to the supermarket as students in our uniform, and we eat anything in the supermarket and walk out.
You talking about the one on Central Street? That supermarket on Central Street?
Abijale, it was there, you know. I remember
there was one on Central Street.
Yeah, that was it was there. But you can also remember that when we get to the bus stops and we're in our uniform, people will put us on their laps. Or we're paying half the fare. People used to line up at
I remember the bus price was 10 cents.
Look, we used to line up at the bus station like regular people as it's being done in America.
That's why you found this song?
Yeah, I found a song. But Chris, I got a question to ask you. I want to ask you why Liberia is one of the few countries where poor people live around the water. Other countries you go there, when you see water, you homes around that.
It's for the rich people.
Liberia is one of the few countries where you see poor people live around the water. Look at Jarata, look at Do River, look at PHP, right behind the mansion.
It's easy. The reason is very easy. In the advanced countries or countries that understand the wealth that they can obtain from waterways and good syringes, they try hard to make sure the waters are clean and decent houses are built and are more expensive to be able to cater for the beautiful lines that tourism will begin to tap on to increase revenue. But the reasons why it's happening the other way in Liberia is because the waterways provides easy utility for the poor people. Since the government cannot provide washing water in the houses and good latrine systems, the people live in near the place where they can easily defecate, where the fish will be eating the defecation. They will catch the fish and cook it in the soup. At the same time, they use the same water to wash clothes. So when you see our people with complete rashes that cannot be cured by even the ointment in the pharmacies, it's not because they are bewitched. It's because the system set it in a way that the environment provides the negative elements for these people that they die of diseases naturally that the hospitals cannot discover.
Chris Onanugwa. Folks, the people that song from me again. But now you have the regular song. Shut down. The people that the song, I just had the song disappear again. I think we should play Joey our song.
Play Happy Birthday, yeah. Joey, Happy Birthday.
Okay.
It befitting the occasion. That's what it is.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Don't worry, the man will send the royalty fee later on.
I need nothing from Joey. I've been making royalty fee. They use it to help like bro. Joey, I beg you, man.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh man, a professional work now.
A professional work. What need about what the people can say the bravo? I beg that Joey I money.
The my man, there's our president. Only God can put King there play the song.
Because I have been praying that the president should drop a Christmas carol. And guess what? He just dropped
the song.
God, happy birthday. Is it Jesus that he's wishing happy birthday to? I don't know. But yes, the song, have a listen. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I love you. Bye-bye.
Kimberly Kamara, congratulations. Happy birthday. Listen to the president of Liberia.
Joe, yeah, me know. Yeah, just say me a celebrate now. They call him back. Ram pam pam. So birthday time. Fever. Joe, Rastafari. Yeah, man.
Happy birthday to you.
We gonna celebrate.
Happy birthday to you.
Good time.
Happy birthday, you dear.
Party.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
my sister.
Happy birthday to you.
I wish you well.
Happy birthday to you, dear.
Pam 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 pam.
Happy birthday to you.
And we wrap up for your birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Come back again. Come make we jump up and we wrap up for your birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
I know you feeling irate, so we gonna wrap up, celebrate, and have a good time all night long.
Thank you, Kim.
Happy.
Kimberly Kamara is our new superstar. Thank you so much for what you've done.
I wish you well. Come every jump up.
West Medali is the book that she produced. Something that is trending on Amazon. And she's the CEO of Never Ending Emotions LLC. NEEP for short. Mrs. Kamara, may God continue to bless you as you live to see many, many more birthdays to come. I know you are planning to big things in Liberia and other parts of Africa. God bless you, sis. And a big thank you to your husband, Mr. Joe Kamara, as well.
Congratulations.
I wish you well.
Happy birthday.
We're gonna start wrapping up though. And hit the new year.
I know you feeling irate.
Happy birthday to you.
We gonna celebrate.
Happy
for you guys, do you know that the president have really helped with tourism and entertainment?
When you say the president has helped with tourism and entertainment, what does that mean? Bring us up to speed.
Look, let's be honest. I remember he had to pay $30,000. The government paid $30,000 for a Liberian artist to fly to Liberia. That was motivation.
You mean D12?
Yeah. You find out that he sings up to every new Liberian song that comes out, and he helps to promote the song to higher heights of popularity.
Oh my God. That boy is being sarcastic. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. Honestly.
Go ahead.
The only place they have missed is that they had a very irresponsible minister who was Minister of Information, Culture, and Tourism. That's Eugene Nangbe, who didn't do absolutely nothing but destroy the ministry. And actually did not allow the government allocate 1 cent in 3 years for tourism. Can you imagine? A budget of a national government is passed. The government speaks about tourism a lot, but 1 cent was not allocated. I had to attend the various.
That is a grave allegation when you say Eugene Nangbe did not do anything for the ministry, but he
we gotta hold that for another day.
No, hold on, Sheldon. I mean, they'll give it a few more minutes and we can cut it a day.
No, I think we should just do that as a clip and do that another day.
Yeah.
So we don't obstruct Sheldon relaxing, preparing for this Yuletide jubilation that he's up to, because Sheldon, the play is about something else.
Sheldon is not in his usual spot right now, and the man has just gotten home. He's on the road, and listen, folks, on behalf of Bridge Radio Africa, and the many of you listening tonight who want to take time out to say congratulations in advance to Fokino Sheldon. He celebrates his 53rd birth anniversary in just a few hours. Sheldon, with the Power Investor Man as the CEO of Bridge Radio Africa, I want to say congratulations. You know, you're my friend for almost 30 years. Sometime when I want to go crazy and say some things, you'll calm me down. It's all love, brother. May God continue to bless you.
Amen.
As you live to see many more birthdays to come.
Amen.
And may God give you wisdom.
Amen.
That we can both work together.
Amen.
And the Bridge Radio Africa second to none. Not only in Liberia, not only in Africa, but in other parts of the world. Congratulations, Sheldon. Chris?
Thank you very much, ASHFORD, for
that Chris coming further. You can claim out and we'll take Chris also witnessed your performance at ELBC. So Chris, you know, Sheldon is no stranger to Chris.
I would just say the Lord of wisdom, understanding, and grace be upon you and your family, and take you to his prepared point of success in your life, which is his glory, that in goodness of health and with prosperity, you shall focus on the gain things that he has in stock for you, that his name will be glorified now and forevermore.
Okay, Sheldon.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, you guys have spoken words of values, and you have placed some very important values on my life by the assertions you've made here, but aligning it with the grace of God, for which we all, rely upon each day to become successful, so to give him the honor and glory. And so I'm very much grateful that I can come this far, irrespective of all that I have gone through, in my own life, and what has done for me through time. So I just want to give him the glory. And ASHFORD, thanks so much for partnershiping with me. I think you said it all. We've come a long way, professional brothers, and we look forward to building bigger things with Bridge Radio Africa for the diaspora and for Liberia and for Africa, the continent. because I think there's so much work to be done. And we can continue to be the voice of reasoning. We can continue to be the light and the beacon of hope. I will continue to put, spotlight on most of these critical topics. Thank you so much.
Okay, Sheldon, my man, enjoy the rest of the night. We'll touch base. Tomorrow is New Year's Day, so we'll take the day off and stuff like that. But if something pops up, we might do something, Hey, we're all ears. Good night, brother.
Thank you. Thank you, bro.
My man. My man.
Thank you.
I want to say a big thank you to all of you. And at this time, folks, I'm telling you, once again, we want to say congratulations to Kimberlyn Kamara. Listen, Kimberlyn is a family, and when I say Kimberlyn is a family, she is a family, because my friend and brother, George Kamara, I will say this to you. I was in Liberia a couple of weeks ago, and going to Liberia, I just went to do the coverage of the election. But come to find out, the older brother of George Kamara, Zizzy Cody, passed away. And this is our big brother, So George Kamara is not in the country. Big sister Cecilia Colley Kepa is not in the country. My big brother Edwin Vavley is not in the country. Then I found myself in Liberia. I say, you know what? I have to play the role. Because these are people that I grew up with for the last 45, 50 years in Jalatown. The fact that you don't see me with Mr. George Kamara every day, that does not negate the fact that we are brothers and friends. This man has known me my whole life. Ask Mrs. Kamara a few years ago when she saw me in Philly. I stopped at her house. I am talking about the CEO of Never Ending Emotions LLC, NIM, Mrs. Kimberly Kamara. Very good woman, has a great heart. She sees you for the first time and she will appear as if she been know you forever. She's celebrating her birthday. She's on the billboard. You know what it takes to be on the billboard of BRIDGERADIO Africa? And George Kamara said to me, today is Kim's birthday. I said, but come on, brother. This is our birthday. Our sister-in-law. So with that said, Kim, enjoy in Grand Star. And for you watching, if you're interested in getting on the billboard for your birthday, wedding anniversary, just feel free to contact BRIDGERADIO Africa. With that said, again, thank you, Mr. George Cassidy Kamara. Thank you, Mrs. Kimberly Kamara. Thank you, Mrs. SARA. BEYSLOW Yante. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Shotton. Thanks to all of you that took off time of your schedule to watch the show tonight. Get your champagne ready. Get your champagne ready for the night. At 1 minute to midnight, people in Africa and other places, they already announced the new year. And we will be announcing ours in less than an hour. Oh man. Tell God thank you. It's been tough in 2020. What do you want to see happen to you or for you in 2021? Please allow me to borrow the wordings of the wise man. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. And that's right. Don't see okra and swallow bone because you can't hide your nakedness from bathing bucket. When God bless you, don't say that medicine. Because when white men know you, you have to know your friend black man. Trust no shadow in the dark. Would it no more zo and one ye mad double to dry? I do wapo. Dress it to buy ye get. Seven blow down and Jacob no chiraji. Do I wait cheers on the Basilion blue? Second we have Pelia. Wait, Ediaku? Yeah, we're playing. The medicine of the microphone, folks. The broadcast commissioner. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. Ash for the giant, and now you know me, Garley. Have a good night. God bless you. Happy New Year. Long live Liberia. Long live the people of Liberia. And long live British Radio Africa. You know, if you want me to go look her a little bit, you see, why not? You know, the New Year coming closer now, so just do something small. They want to start with Grand Bassa County. I said, Kim Elaine, the Bassa people singing for you now. Enjoy your birthday. Whatever you do in life, people will continue to talk. And they will talk not because they hate you, but they will talk because they don't have the opportunity to be in your position. So don't give up. Allow them to talk. And when they talk, at the end of the day, when they realize that all they're talking has no substance, but it's just talking because they're not in your position. And speaking of making them talk, we have Dench to do for us. Let them talk.
KC Dench, are you ready now? Come on.
It's my turn.
My name's Sweet, me I'm off, oh, my name's Sweet. Getting sweet in your mouth, oh, you're too sweet. My name's Sweet in your mouth, oh, my name's Sweet. Getting sweet in your mouth, oh, my name's Sweet. Let the people talk about you, let them talk. Let the people talk about you, make them talk. Get them reason to talk about you, oh. Let the people talk about you, let them talk. You are very important. See how the people talking, see how they celebrating you, yeah. You're very important.
That is the last song they were playing. So my second, I'm going to go sleep now, tired. Your thank you plenty. Your thank you plenty. Thank you, Mr. George Cassidy Camara. Thank you, Mrs. Kimberly Camara. Thank you so much for what you've done and continue to do. Let them talk. God will reward you. Let them talk.
My name's Sweet in your mouth, oh, my name's Sweet. Getting sweet in your mouth, oh, you're too sweet. My name's Sweet in your mouth, oh, my name's Sweet. Getting sweet in your mouth, oh, my name's Sweet. Let the people talk about you, let them talk. Let the people talk about you, make them talk. Get them reason to talk about you, oh, let them talk. Let the people talk about you, let them talk. KC, anything you do, people must talk. When I know less than say the sauce for soup is not enough. Oh, so I know they mind at all. Your natural beauty is all I want to. Say no be my God, life like on my gun. Some fingers are short, some fingers are dull. I say them no be my God, life like on my gun. Some fingers are short, some fingers are dull. My name sweet for your mouth, oh, my name sweet. Come on, it's too sweet for your mouth, oh, it's too sweet. My name's Sweet in your mouth, oh, my name's Sweet. It's too sweet in your mouth, oh, it's too sweet. Let the people talk about you, oh. Let them talk. I say leave them, make them talk about you, oh. Make them talk. Let the people talk about you, oh. Let them talk. Get anyone talk about you, oh. Let them talk. Come on. God bless me, oh. You can't stop me, oh. Yeah. They try, but they not ever said. If Papa bless me, oh, you can't try me, oh. Yeah, they try, but they not ever said. Meditating on big things, put my head on big things. Got it fucking do big things. Yeah, oh. Meditating, concentrating, got the money, do the talking. Meditating, concentrating, say my name, oh. My name's Sweet in your mouth, oh. My name's Sweet. Getting sweet in your mouth, oh, it's too sweet. My name's Sweet in your mouth, oh, my name's Sweet.
It is sweet in your mouth, oh, my name sweet.